Okay, welcome to the Mental Skills for Agility Success, Taming Your Ring Nerves webinar. My name's Lynn Madden. I'm a OneMind Dogs instructor here in Australia and really happy to present this topic to you guys today. So first up, nerves. It's something that we all get. And with the OneMind Dogs method, we're really aiming to try and help everybody see things from their dog's perspective, but we also want to make sure that we're looking after both sides of the team. So not just the dog side of the team, but we're also looking after the human side of the team. We want to make sure that we're helping you all with your mental game as well as your handling game. So why do we get anxious in competition? These are the topics that we're going to cover today. Why do we get anxious in competition? Nerves, they're not always a bad thing. We talk about what the dynamics of nerves are. We talk about how ring nerves can affect us at competition, and then how we can deal with these ring nerves. So ring stress, we talk a lot about that with the dog, but it's not only a problem for the dog. So in terms of nerves, they can happen to us everywhere in life. So it's not just a thing that happens at competition. So as an example, I've done a few webinars now, but it's still something that I do tend to get a little nervous about. And so normally my heart rate would be sitting at about 85 beats per minute. And just at the moment, it's sitting at 105 beats per minute. So you can tell just by the raise of my heart rate that I get a little bit nervous before something a big event, something that we don't do every day. So if we have a think about that in terms of getting anxious in competition, it's something that makes sense. So things that can cause the nerves for competition are things like other people's performances. If you're standing by the ringside and you're watching other people run and you're seeing them having these wonderful, great runs, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, there's just no way that my run's going to look like that. These guys are amazing. What am I doing here? These sort of things, by watching other people's performances, can really impact on our nerves at competition. Also, if we're setting some unrealistic goals. So if we go to a competition thinking, my goal is to win this class, and there's a class of 100 dogs, then that's a good stretch goal to have, but it's also putting some really unrealistic pressure on you. So you've got one chance in 100 of having that happen. And look, somebody has to win. So it's a possibility. But if you set that goal in your mind as the only way I'm going to succeed is if I win this class, then the level of stress that can put on you can make the nerves really kick into gear. And it also comes down to results. So that's sort of like a result-oriented goal. So if I say my goal is to go out there and queue, then that the only way that I'm going to be successful is if I do queue. And so the stress and the nerves and the anxiety about reaching that goal can really impact on your performance and cause you to be nervous. Whereas if you have a goal that's more based along the lines of my goal today is for my dog to be engaged with me, and we're going to be focused all the way around on course. So breaking your goals down into something that is a bit more tangible and gettable, basically, so that we can always have the goal of getting that cue card. But I find that if you set goals like, I want him to hold his start line today, that's my biggest goal for this competition. Or this competition, I want to make sure that we're connected and that we continue to work together all the way through the course. Over time, when you achieve those goals, they're going to come to that result-oriented goal of getting the cue card. Because if you look after those other goals first, your nerve levels drop, and then your performance improves, and then you can reach your bigger targeted goals. But if you put so much pressure on that result-oriented goal, it can really cause these stress levels to get high and the ring nerves to really kick in. So nerves, they are not only a bad thing. So when we think of being nervous, we think about how we don't like the feeling of being nervous. None of us like the feeling of being nervous. But the thing is, nerves do not always mean it's a bad thing. So if we think about when nerves are bad, what happens is if you get so nervous, it can prevent you from doing your best. If you're so nervous about the run you're about to have, you're not going to be performing at peak optimal, at your optimal best. And nerves can be impacted on by things like your last training session. So if you've just trained at home, before the big competition and you had a disaster of a training session, then you can go into that competition feeling a bit more nervous than you might normally feel, because you think, oh my God, the last training session was terrible. How are we ever going to compete at this competition when I can't even do it at home? And so that's when nerves start to get in your mind and get into your headspace and give you that negative self-talk that can really impact on your competition performance. And then self-confidence. If the nerves start to get to you and your brain starts to tell you that you're not good enough for this, the competition's too hard, there's too many good handlers here, excuse me, sorry about that, then that's going to impact on your performance, because the nerves are going to really erode your self-confidence. And so if you go into that competition ring with the nerves having you say to yourself that you're not good enough, then your performance is going to be impacted. So these are all what we call disruptive nerves. Tiredness can absolutely cause you to be nervous, because if you go into a competition, you feel tired and you feel your body sore or anything like that, then you start to say to yourself, I'm too tired to get around this course. This course is way too long. I'm going to have to run too fast. I'm not going to be able to do it. And so you can see all of these things that nerves do basically impact on your mental game and can cause you to have issues in the ring. However, nerves can be good. So being nervous can get you in a state that makes you ready to perform. So when we talk about athletes, some athletes, when they get a little bit nervous, it really gets the body into a level that they can start to compete at. So, I've just started this webinar and my heart rate increased, but that just made my state of awareness a little bit higher. It gets my body woken up so that I can then perform how I want to. So if your level of nerves is not too high and not too low, but at that really nice optimal level, then it can just make your body perk up that little bit and really get you breathing deep, gets the heart rate pumping, get the blood pumping around so that you're ready to go. And so, like I said here, it gets your mind and body ready for action. That's on the day. But if you start to feel nervous about a competition or a big competition you've got coming up, then those sort of nerves can make you prepare well. So if you're thinking about a big competition coming up, I have the Nationals here in Australia coming up in a few months' time, or in 6 months' time. Feeling nervous about that and about whether I'm ready, whether I'm not ready, what am I going to do, how's it going to impact, then that makes me go out and train, makes me prepare well, makes me think about all the things I need to make sure that I'm successful at that competition. So nerves are not always just a bad thing. So the dynamics of nerves. What do nerves actually cause? So as we've said, nerves can make you and can provoke some of these thoughts. So feeling nervous can be a fear of failure. So if you're going to a competition and you really don't want to do badly, so you go in there thinking, I want to do well, I really want to show people that what my dog can do, that we've been training all this time and that we're ready. But in the little back of your mind, that fear of failure and not doing well and not living up to what other people's expectations are can cause us to be quite nervous about the competition. The other thing is performance anxiety. And that's like when you're going to a big competition and there are some big names there like world team members or people that you admire, and you think that they're going to be looking at you and sort of judging you, you can have some performance anxiety. And those sort of things, when you see somebody walk past that you really admire and you admire how they handle and how good they are as a team, then it can sort of impact on you when you're doing your performance, especially if they're next in line running after you and you're worried about they're all going to be judging your run, then that can cause the nerves to kick in. Not feeling ready. So if you've been training at home, but the training hasn't been going well, but you've still got this competition on and you go anyway, then not feeling well prepared or not feeling ready can cause the nerves to really kick in, because you go, I'm just not ready for this competition. My dog's not ready. We don't have the skills yet. Then you're not going to be going in there with confidence. The need and desire to be perfect. Some of us have the idea that we want to be perfect when we go to competitions, that everything needs to be perfect. And so that desire, again, can cause the nerves to kick in. And then also, if you're generally an anxious person, then that anxiety is going to fuel your nervous system. So how do ring nerves affect us? So I want you all to have a think about the last time you went to a competition and if you were nervous or not. And then have a think about what it was about those nerves and how did it affect you and your performance. So nerves can cause things like the racing heart. Like I said, my heart rate went up when I sat down to do this webinar. It can cause sweating. You start to sweat through your clothes, even if it's a cold day. It can cause a slight sense of discomfort. So, that feeling in your stomach when you go, oh, something just doesn't feel right. And those nerves can really impact on your system that way. It can also cause you to feel dizzy in some extreme cases, can make you feel sick, can cause you stomach issues. And all of these physical symptoms can be put down to nerves. And so these are the things, when nerves get to this level, where you get any of these symptoms to a higher degree, then they can really impact on your performance. So the main thing that happens, if your heart is racing, you're sweating, you're not feeling like your mind and body are connected, then it's really going to cause problems with your timing and rhythm on course. So sometimes, like if your heart rate's high, you might get overexcited when you start running and you might run too hard. Or if you're not feeling well and your stomach's not well, when you start to run, you just don't feel like you've got it in you to get to the points on the course that you really need to. So it really does throw out your timing and rhythm of what happens, like when you're at home. The other thing is nerves can make us have our attention on the wrong things. So instead of having our attention solely on our dog and the run we're about to do, we start to think about all the other things around us. And it's amazing what your mind will do. You can start to think about, I saw this person in the waiting area. They're going to be watching me. What if they think I'm not good enough? Is my dog going to hold at start line? I don't know. I'm not ready for this. All of these thoughts can be clouding into your mind, and they make you forget about the most important things of just connecting with your dog, taking a deep breath, and executing your plan. The other thing is it can have you making decisions really difficult. So if nerves are overwhelming, then they can really cause the brain to basically fog up a little bit, and you have trouble making decisions. So a lot of in agility, a lot of it comes down to being able to respond quickly when things go wrong, because oftentimes things go wrong. I would love it if everything was executed to 100% every time. But again, we can't all be perfect, and nobody is perfect. So there is always going to be things go wrong in competition. So nerves can make you responding to those things go wrong, when things go wrong, more difficult, because you have trouble making your brain think quick enough to make that happen. Because generally speaking, if we're nervous, all of our blood system, pulls from our extremities and goes to our gut, because that's where all the bad feelings start to come from. And it really does make thinking and moving a little bit more difficult. So how to deal with ring nerves? This is the multi-million-dollar question. And if we could all do this, it would be unbelievable and it would be so wonderful. But basically, the main things you want to do is have some self-awareness is the first thing. You really need to check in with yourself at competition and go, am I feeling nervous? Because there'll be times when I've asked people and I'll have had a bad run at competition and somebody will say, were you nervous before that run? Because it looked like you were nervous. And I'll go, no, I wasn't nervous at all. But I think deep down, there was some doubt in my mind. And so that low level of nerves really did impact on my performance. So you need to have a real good self-awareness about what your mental state's at, where it's at, what is your brain telling you and what is your body telling you, and you need to get deep down aware of your level of nervousness. And so once you can do that, you can start to deal with it. And then the next thing is, once you say, okay, am I feeling nervous? Do these nerves impact on my run? Because for some people, that low level of nerves is what they need to get themselves up to run well. And it's a tipping point on whether the nerves are going to help you get to peak performance or whether they're going to start to impact on your performance. So you need to have a really long, hard think about your last few competitions and think, okay, the runs that I did really well, how did I feel? And what was my level of nervousness? And what were my thoughts in my head when those things went well? And then have a think about the runs that might not have gone quite so well, and really check in with yourself and say, okay, well, what was my state of alertness then? Were the nerves kicking me in? Did I have those negative self-talk happening in my brain when I was running those runs? And so keeping a little bit of a diary at competitions can really help you start to pinpoint what we call the triggers of nerves. And so being able to really pinpoint those things that trigger the nervousness, and then when that impacts on your performances, are really going to help you start to come up with a plan on how to deal with those triggers. So some of those triggers could be things like you get to a competition and it starts to rain if you're at an outdoor event, and then you start to worry about how the weather's going to affect your ability to run, and all of these type of things. And so that could be one trigger. Another trigger could be hearing people complain about certain things around agility. A trigger could be you didn't get enough sleep. You're not hydrated enough. You haven't eaten enough. All of these are things that can really trigger how nervous you get at a competition. And then the other thing is really working on building the self-confidence. And so I would suggest, if you haven't, all of you already, had a look at our webinar on the mental side of agility, getting out of your own head. This is a really good webinar to have a look at, to really delve into how our mental game can impact our performance. And so it really goes into depth about working on the things, working on the negative self-talk, and working on how to surround yourself with positive people to really help you at your mental game. And so once you have control of your mental game, and then you've been practicing well, you're training well, your self-confidence will increase. And then once you've got that self-confidence, you'll see people that just look amazing at agility. And so have a think about the people that you admire when they run, and just have a think about their self-confidence. So usually when you see them walking around or walking into the ring with their dogs, they just give off this air of self-confidence. And so it's about building at training and at different competitions and just in your everyday life, that level of awareness of yourself, and to help yourself build that confidence. So handling those ring nerves. Let's have a talk about some of the things you can do. My first big piece of advice is to train like your trial. Really work on at home when you're training. Put some pressure on yourself. If you've got a little group training session, if you've got a couple of people, get the stopwatch out and time each other, and see who wins, and put, you know, a little training cup on the line. And so that way you're starting to practice the that little bit of level of nervousness that's hard to replicate at home when you're training alone. The other thing you could do is, you know, when you're out there and you're practicing without your treats and everything on you, really set it up like a trial, so that you have the same mindset, you do the same patterns when you go into the ring. And if you don't go clear, you keep running, you don't fix it on the spot, and then you see where you're at, and then you can judge your performance like that. So you really want to start practicing what the trial environment is going to feel like. Trusting your training. When you go to a competition, you're going to trust that the training you've done is going to be enough, and that you're going to trust your dog, that you and your dog have been working together for this event, and you're going to trust that you have the training behind you to do the job. You're going to concentrate on what you can control. So getting upset and nervous about things that we can't control, like the weather, like other people, that's when we're wasting our time and our own mental abilities on things we can't control. So again, the other webinar we talked about, the mental side of agility, getting out of your own head, really goes into how we can do that. And then really looking at that positive self-talk again, where you're wanting to make sure that any of those negative thought patterns that come into your head, you start turning them into positives. When you walk to the start line and you think, we're not ready for this, you, instead of saying we're not ready for this, you start to say to yourself, okay, we've done the training. I've done all of these handling moves that we're going to do at training. We can do this. The dog and I are both capable. And so you start to turn your negative self-talk into positive self-talk. Spending time with positive people. And I cannot emphasize this enough. And I love our OneMind dog community, because they're a group of people that all have some like-minded thoughts. And we're really in this for the love of our dogs, the love of agility, and wanting to play the game together and have a good time. And our goal is to make sure that our dogs are enjoying the game as much as we are. And so if you're spending time around people like that, then your ability to get nervous becomes less, because they're all focusing on the positive things as well. And generally, if you start to get in your own head and start to give yourself the negative self-talk, they will generally help prop you back up and pick you up and help you find the positive in the situation, so that your nerve level can come down. And then the other thing is ring routines, and we're going to talk about that next. So ring routines are not just for your dog. And again, we've had a webinar recently on ring stress and agility, helping your dog reach their potential in competition. So I want you to have a think about, if you've gone through that webinar, and if you haven't, please go and have a look at it, because we talk a lot about how we can make routines for the dog so that they can have less stress in competition. And so I want you guys to find the same thing. So have your ring routines for yourself and not just for your dog. So things along the lines of planning for the trip. If you have to travel to your competition, you want to be well planned so that the car is packed, everything is ready to go before you have to leave, so that you're not frantically running around trying to throw things in the car, forgetting things. So that sort of thing is going to really decrease your level of anxiety and therefore your nerves. Making sure you get good rest. If you're well rested, you're less likely to fall into that negative mindset, and your body is more prepared to do the job you're going to ask of it. Good nutrition and hydration. So this means making sure you've got good snacks to eat on the day, and making sure you have plenty of water, hydrolyte, anything like that, to make sure that you're keeping your body well fueled for what you want to ask of it. Again, making sure you surround yourself with the right tribe, having people that are like-minded, that are going to be there to support you. Warming up and cooling down, making sure you give yourself enough time to warm your body up and be ready to run. I know, and I put my hand up as somebody that doesn't do this enough, and it's something that I've incorporated into my routine now, so that when I'm out there with my dog, I'm focused on them. But before I get to that stage, I make sure that I warm myself up so that I'm ready to go when I get my dog out of its crate to do their ring routines. Then I can focus on them. But I want to make sure that before that time, I focus on me. The other thing about ring routines is have a routine about the course. So when you go to walk a course, have a routine about how you do that. So my routine when I walk courses, I generally go out because we don't get maps provided to us in Australia. We have to go out and find the numbers first. So I usually go out and find where the numbers go. Then next thing, I walk the course for the dog's path. Then my third walk, I'm thinking about what handling I need to do to ensure that the dog knows where I want them to go. And then the next walk is me performing those handling maneuvers. And my last walk is me running it as I would if it was the competition with my virtual dog. So generally speaking, I probably only walk a course 5 to 7 times. And then I go to the side of the ring and see if I can walk that course in my head. So I'm mentally running over the course in my mind. And if I can walk that course in my head without looking at it, then I know that I've got it right. And I can then practice outside the ring whenever I want. I could be doing my warm-up stretches and I could be running through the course in my mind. And so then I attack the course like I've run it before. I go out there and I don't have any questions about where the course goes, and then I can just concentrate on the other things I want to do. So having those sort of plans in place can really decrease your level of nervousness on the day. And again, this is something that you have to work on a routine for. And so just thinking about it is not going to make your ring nerves disappear. These are things that you have to practice at. And so mental skills are trainable. These are all things that we can train ourselves to be better at. And the biggest keys to take away are be self-aware of what your mindset is and what your brain is telling everybody else. And then be aware of how your body feels and how your performance goes. So I would start to track what your mindset is, how your performance went, and what level do you think your nerves were at. And then start to get some real data behind when your performances are good versus when your performances might not be as good as you would like. And then start to make some notes about why you think that was. And then you can start to come back and focus on those ideas about why things might not have gone quite as well. So in a nutshell, that's ring nerves. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you check out the emails that will come out in the follow-up. So if you've registered for the event, you'll get the emails coming out to you in the next few days. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us and ask away. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will catch you all again very soon.